My savings!
The system always wins.
This is rigged!
Exactly. Now burn.
No! The system failed us!
The system's working just fine for me.
You won't get away with this!
The paycheck hits your bank account. 2 days later, it's gone. Rent, student loans, groceries that somehow cost double what they did 3 years ago. You check your balance again, just to be sure. Maybe you misread it. Maybe the numbers will magically change. They don't. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes to say out loud. For millions of people under 30, this isn't a temporary struggle. It's becoming the default financial reality of an entire generation. Gen Z might quietly become the poorest generation in modern history. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't work hard, but because the economic rules changed, and almost nobody warned them. Let me explain. 20 years ago, the financial path was simple. Go to school, get a degree, find a stable job, buy a house, save for retirement. It wasn't perfect, but the math worked. A median house in the United States in 1995 cost about 3 times the median annual salary. Today, in many cities, it's 8 to 12 times the median salary. That means something brutal. Even if you work harder than previous generations, you're starting much further behind. And the gap keeps widening. Rent is exploding. Healthcare is exploding. Education costs exploded first. Meanwhile, wages? They moved like a turtle stuck in traffic. Inflation quietly eats everything in the background. And inflation is a silent thief. You don't see it stealing your money. You just notice life getting harder. Your groceries cost more. Your rent increases. Your savings buy less every year. $1 saved today slowly melts in value, and if you don't invest it properly, inflation quietly turns years of work into dust. That's threat number 1. Inflation destroys slow savers. But that's only the beginning. Let's talk about debt. Student loans were sold as an investment. Go to college and you'll earn more. That's the promise, but here's the part most people never calculate. Imagine you graduate with $60,000 in student debt. Your interest rate is 6%. That means every year you're paying $3,600 just in interest before even touching the principal. Now combine that with rising rent, rising insurance, rising transportation costs. Suddenly your financial life turns into a treadmill. You run as hard as possible, but you barely move forward. And here's where things get dangerous. Debt doesn't just cost money. It costs time. Time you could have spent investing. Time you could have spent building leverage. Time you could have spent taking risks. Instead, you're stuck making minimum payments. That's how entire decades disappear. Now, let's talk about the job market. Because this is where Gen Z gets hit the hardest. Automation is rising. Artificial intelligence is replacing tasks faster than companies can create new roles. Entry-level jobs are shrinking. The ladder previous generations used to climb is missing the first few steps. Companies want experience, but nobody wants to hire beginners. So millions of young workers end stuck in a strange financial limbo, overqualified for minimum wage, underqualified for high-paying jobs. Meanwhile, the cost of existing keeps rising every year. This creates a dangerous trap. You work harder, but the system quietly extracts more from you. Higher taxes, higher rent, higher insurance, higher everything. And if you're not careful, the result is predictable. You become financially exhausted before you even start building wealth. But here's the deeper problem, one nobody talks about enough. Lifestyle inflation. The moment someone gets their first real paycheck, the spending begins. Better apartment, new car, expensive subscriptions, food delivery every other night. None of these feel catastrophic, they feel normal. But the math behind them is brutal. Let's say you spend an extra $300 a month on things you technically don't need. That's $3,600 per year. Invested in the stock market at a historical 8% return, over 30 years that becomes roughly $400,000. One habit, one decision, repeated every month, nearly $500,000 gone, and most people never even notice it happening. But before this sounds too depressing, here's the part most people miss. Gen Z also has something previous generations never had: leverage. The internet changed the wealth equation. In the past, building wealth required capital. Today, it often requires attention, skill, and distribution. A laptop and internet connection can become a business. A skill can become a digital product. A small audience can become recurring income. But here's the catch. This path requires something the traditional system never trained people for: self-direction. No boss forcing you to learn. No teacher assigning work. No guaranteed paycheck at the end of the week. You have to build it yourself. That's uncomfortable. But it's also powerful. Because the same systems that are making traditional jobs unstable are creating new opportunities for those who adapt. Think about it logically. If inflation punishes idle money, you need assets. If jobs are unstable, you need multiple income streams. If the cost of living keeps rising, you need income that scales faster than your expenses. This is where the strategy shifts. Instead of relying on one paycheck, you start building financial layers. Your investing is a fundamental problem that ultimately reduces the word of a timeless consumer. Maybe you create content. Maybe you build an online store. Maybe you invest small amounts consistently. None of these make you rich overnight, but they create something powerful: options. And financial options are the difference between surviving and thriving. There's another reason this matters: compounding. Compounding is the closest thing money has to gravity. Once it starts pulling, it becomes incredibly powerful. But the opposite is also true. If you delay investing until your mid-30s because life is too expensive, you lose the most powerful years of compounding. 10 years lost early in life can cut your retirement wealth in half. That's why the biggest financial mistake young people make isn't bad investments, it's waiting too long to start investing at all. Even small amounts matter. $100 invested monthly for 40 years can grow into hundreds of thousands. Time does most of the work, but only if you start. Let's also address something uncomfortable. The system isn't perfectly fair. Housing shortages, corporate consolidation, rising inequality. These forces exist, but here's the dangerous mindset that destroys people financially: believing you are completely powerless. Because the moment you believe that, you stop looking for leverage. And leverage is everywhere, if you train your brain to see it. Skills are leverage, networks are leverage, digital platforms are leverage, investments are leverage. Knowledge itself is leverage. Every generation faces economic obstacles. But the people who escape poverty are rarely the ones waiting for perfect conditions. They're the ones adapting faster than everyone else. Right now, the financial world is changing faster than most people realize. AI will reshape jobs. Housing shortages will keep prices high. Inflation will continue eroding savings. Governments will keep printing money during crises. This means the old financial playbook is outdated. Saving alone isn't enough. Working one job isn't enough. Relying entirely on the system isn't enough. The new strategy is resilience. Multiple income sources. Skills that survive automation. Investments that grow faster than inflation. And most importantly, discipline. Because the biggest threat to your financial future isn't always the economy. Sometimes it's impatience. The desire for quick wins, the temptation to spend money you haven't earned yet. Wealth rarely disappears overnight. It erodes slowly through small bad decisions repeated for years. So yes, Gen Z faces serious economic challenges. Housing is harder to buy. Education is expensive. Jobs are changing. The system is more competitive than ever. But there's another truth hiding behind the headlines. This generation also has more tools, more information, and more leverage than any generation before it. The question isn't whether the economy is difficult. It absolutely is. The question is whether you adapt faster than the people around you. Because in the next 20 years, two financial paths will quietly emerge. One group will stay trapped in debt, rising costs, and unstable income. The other group will build skills, assets, and leverage that compound over time. Both groups will live in the same economy, but their financial futures will look completely different. And the decisions that separate them, they start today, long before most people realize what's happening. And here's the part most people won't admit. The financial gap between people your age is about to explode. Not in 30 years, not in 20. The new strategy is resilience. Multiple income sources, skills that survive automation, investments that grow faster than inflation, and most important, not the fundamental, fighting and pain, investments that grow faster than inflation. Sometimes it's impatience, the desire for quick wins, the temptation to spend money you haven't earned yet. Wealth rarely disappears overnight. It erodes slowly, through small bad decisions repeated for years. So yes, Gen Z faces serious economic challenges. Housing is harder to buy. Education is expensive. Jobs are changing. The system is more competitive than ever. But there's another truth hiding behind the headlines. This generation also has more tools, more information, and more leverage than any generation before it. The question isn't whether the economy is difficult. It absolutely is. The question is whether you adapt faster than the people around you. Because in the next 20 years, two financial paths will quietly emerge. One group will stay trapped in debt, rising costs, and unstable income. The other group will build skills, assets, and leverage that compound over time. Both groups will live in the same economy, but their financial futures will look completely different. And the decisions that separate them, they start today. And here's the part most people won't admit. The financial gap between people your age is about to explode. Not in 30 years. Not in 20. In the next 5 to 10 years, because technology is accelerating wealth inequality faster than ever before. A small group of people will learn how to use the internet, AI, digital skills, and investing to create leverage. Meanwhile, everyone else will keep doing what the system told them to do. Work harder, take on more debt, hope things get better. But hope is not a financial strategy. The economy does not reward effort, it rewards leverage. And leverage is built through three things most people ignore: skills, ownership, and time. Skills give you the ability to earn more than the average worker. Ownership gives you assets that grow while you sleep. And time allows compounding to quietly multiply your progress. Without those three things, the math becomes brutal. You trade time for money forever. Your income rises slowly. Your expenses rise faster. And one unexpected event, a layoff, a recession, a medical emergency, can destroy years of progress overnight. That's the real danger. Not poverty, but financial fragility. Living in a system where one mistake, one bad month, or one economic shock resets everything. But if you understand the rules of this new economy, you can play a completely different game. Instead of only working for money, you build systems that work for you. Instead of relying on one job, you develop multiple income streams. Instead of letting inflation slowly erode your savings, you own assets that rise with it. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no magic shortcut. But the earlier you start, the more powerful the results become. Because while most people are distracted by the noise of the economy, the real winners are quietly doing the boring things that compound. Learning valuable skills, building online leverage, investing consistently, avoiding lifestyle traps, and thinking long term, while everyone else is thinking about next weekend. That's how wealth actually grows. Slow at first, then suddenly. So if you're part of Gen Z, understand this. Yes, the system is harder than it used to be. Yes, the traditional path is breaking, but that also means the people who adapt early will have an enormous advantage. And the decisions you make in your 20s, how you spend, what you learn, what you build, will echo for the rest of your life. Ignore this reality, and the system will quietly keep you stuck. Understand it, and you can start building leverage while everyone else is still trying to figure out what went wrong. Because in the modern economy, the biggest risk isn't failing, it's never realizing the rules changed. If you want to stay ahead of these economic shifts, learn how money actually works, and build real financial leverage in a world that's changing fast, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Every week, we break down the hidden mechanics of money. We're a global economy that helps most people expand in their alignment, so you can make smarter financial decisions while most people are still asleep.
No, it's all burning!
All mine now. This is rigged. We're broke.
That's the system, kid!